Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Hey friends, I am Neethi the pharmacist here with my co-hosts Janae Williams and Valerie Cruz, and we are on full. Welcome to Our View. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
So today we are going to hear all about Valerie's story, on her journey to this regenerative lifestyle.
Well, I like to think of my journey as 3 parts. Part 1 is my oblivious stage. Part 2 is my angry stage. And part 3 is when I started living intentionally. So part 1, it begins a long time ago. I was going through life as everyone does. I got married. And when I realized I wanted to have children, I realized it wasn't as easy as just wanting to have children. I had problems. I went to the doctor, and they determined that I had fibroids. And that just shocked my whole world. And I didn't know what fibroids were until that moment in time. And I asked my mother. My mother didn't know what fibroids was. I asked my aunts. They didn't know. I asked my grandmother. They didn't know. I asked other women who were my peers. And it turns out everyone I asked has had fibroids. And I was still oblivious. So I would go, oh, that's weird. Go to the doctor. And the doctor said I needed surgery. Of course, what the doctor says I do, I had the surgery. And luckily, that did it for me. And I was easily blessed with a girl, a baby girl. And in that moment in time, it wasn't easy either. She came out with a fever. It was a hard birth. It was an emergency C-section. And because she came out with a fever, she needed to have antibiotics. It was a C-section, mind you, and I found all this out after the birth, after they did what they did to her. And she was in ICU for 2 weeks because of the fever, and on antibiotics for 2 weeks because of the fever. So she, that ICU period was very, very painful because I'm in there with children who were all premature. They were very little, very sick, mothers who were there with their children for months on end, some of them like 4 or 5 months or more. Luckily, I was just there for 2 weeks, and my baby was full term. She was big and healthy, so I thought. And, we went through that period of time, and I took her home. And, during that time, I also was not able to breastfeed because I wasn't getting milk at that time. And so at the hospital, she was given formula. She did not take to the regular formula, so they had to give her soy milk formula. And that's what she had as far as formula for her until I can give her milk. And even when I did get milk finally, I enhanced my milk because it was never enough. She was always hungry. She was always crying. She didn't sleep well. It wasn't enough. I still gave her the soy formula during that time period. And then probably right around when she was 2 years old, not even, I'm sorry, when she was like 6 months old, she developed eczema. And so I started dealing with trying to get her skin to not be scaly, not be itchy, not be inflamed. It was just very, very difficult. And then she not only had the the allergy for milk, it turns out she also had other food allergies, because right around she was 2 years old, she had an anaphylactic reaction to what I thought was peanuts. Mind you, I wasn't there, sadly. She was in daycare. And she had the reaction and was still having the reaction when I came to pick her up, and she was there. Her face was swelling. Her speech was getting slurred. It was her, she kept coughing, and
They didn't know that she was in a state of anaphylaxis?
No. I didn't know.
How did they not know
I
that she
didn't
wasn't
know.
asphyxiated?
I didn't know. I said, "What's going on with you?" And my daughter started talking when she was very young. So, she's like, "Mommy, I had candy." She told me, and her birthday's right around Halloween, and we had Halloween candy at the time, birthday candy at the time, and what I thought had candy. And so I saw that something was really going on, something was wrong. I rushed her to the doctor. I went to a nearby emergency clinic, walk-in clinic, and they couldn't treat her. I had to go to an emergency room to get her treated. And there is when she got her, they treated her and she got her EpiPen. So she's been carrying an EpiPen since she was about 2 years old. And right after that reaction, I had her tested for food allergies, and it turns out she's allergic to milk, shellfish, soy, and eggs, and
it's interesting she's allergic to soy.
I thought
yes.
After they put her on a soy formula.
I know.
Which they should never put children on a soy
I
formula.
know.
Let's just go ahead and start with that.
I
For
know.
anybody who's watching, then, soy is a hormone disruptor and a tumor grower. And the last thing a child needs is soy. So do not, if you're using a soy formula, then please throw it in the garbage. I know you need a solution, okay? So, the solution is not a soy formula. If you're unable to nurse, for people have many reasons why they aren't unable to nurse, or why they need to have some type of formula. So, you can actually use bone broth to make a recipe for that. You can go to the Weston A. Price Foundation website, and there's actually a list of resources, which includes a recipe on how to make a formula for babies using bone broth instead of using, anything else. But the problem is that you also need the bone broth to come from animals that are healthier than you are. So let me just say this, that you want to make sure you find some grass-based beef. And
Organic?
then use not organic, grass-based regenerative beef, not in a store. You have to find a farmer. Go to localharvest.org, I believe. Go to Eat Wild. That might be .com. Just Google Eat Wild or Google Local Harvest, okay? And what you're looking for is grass-based beef, okay? And not from the store. You need to be able to talk to the farmer to find out what the animals were eating, okay? And you want to know if they fed them anything in the winter or outside of the grass season, like what are they giving their animals? But even if they were just on grass full time, and even if they, use some kind of feed in the winter, it's better than anything you'll ever find in a store because they're on grass. All right. So take those bones, make a bone broth, go to the Weston A. Price Foundation's website and see where they have the recipe for baby formula using bone broth.
I wish I had known that then.
Well, we wish we knew a lot of things, which is the reason why we're here.
Yes.
Yes.
We're here because we don't want other mothers to have to go through what we had to go through.
Yes. So on top of dealing with my daughter, who she was happy. She was always a happy baby, but what the issues was she was never satisfied. She could never be full, it seemed.
You mean satiated?
Satiated. And she would never sleep. She would really be a handful, like all the time. and it was exhausting.
Mhm.
And
As a single mom, right?
yes, I am a single mom. At the time, I wasn't. At the time, I was married, and you know, these things. I even worked full time. You know, sadly, she was a baby who was in the daycare by 6 weeks old, and it was really difficult because she was a baby who scratched all the time. And not only did she scratch all the time, she would scratch holes in herself where she would bleed all the time. And at one point at a daycare, I would get a call at work where they would tell me to come get her because she was bleeding everywhere. And I would get there and see my baby just full of blood, as if somebody stabbed her or something.
I mean, is this normal, people? You know,
No.
like, this is what we're talking about. This is, you know, unfortunately, your story isn't very unique. You know, the problem that we see right now in society is that, unfortunately, this is not a unique situation. We're sharing the story because we know that there are more people like that everywhere.
And that's why I say it's my oblivious stage. Because I'm going through all of this, and yet I don't put two and two together. I don't say it's the food or it's the formula or, you know, it's what I'm trying to feed her so that she can get satiated and satisfied and be able to sleep.
Well, when do you have time? I mean, aren't you working all the time? And also, you know, I mean, in your defense too, you are not sleeping.
Yes.
You know, when you have a child that small that you're trying to take care of, which is the situation I find most mothers in, they're not sleeping. So it's not like you are, you know, some ignorant human being who has no desire to help your child or anything like that. I mean, you are doing whatever is humanly possible. And I mean, let's be honest. What happens if you quit working at that moment?
Yeah.
Are you
It
able to make
wasn't an
that choice?
option. No.
Okay. I mean, you know, like, we have to, you know, cope with whatever the situation, whatever the circumstances are that we're in. And, you know, you can only do whatever you can do. But hopefully, when we're speaking with other moms right now, you know, we're able to help you have at least an idea. I hope this show is just giving you some solutions so that, you know, when you do have to leave your child at daycare, when something does have to happen, like how you had to do, I mean, you were
Yes.
forced to do that, then, you know, let's talk about, you know, what it is that other mothers can do right now that you learned along the way that we know, or maybe you didn't know that then, that we know that we can try to suggest
Yes.
might be a better solution. You can say what you were facing, then we can talk about, you know,
How to
overcome that, how to
prevent
navigate
that
your way.
for someone else to
Right.
go through.
And obviously, this is going to be an ongoing conversation, but I don't want to take away from your story. I mean, I think we should hear all of Valerie's story, and then, you know, we want all you viewers out there to know that we're always going to be, you know, reflecting back on our experiences
Yes.
and sharing what we know that we feel like can help other people.
And it's not only the battle with trying to get my daughter at a state where we can satisfy her and where she didn't have to itch and scratch holes into herself and where she can sleep. You know, at the same time, I got news that my mother had contracted leukemia right around when my daughter was around 2. And you know, my mother was everything to us. She lived right around the corner from me. I did everything with her. She was my rock. Even though I had my husband, I did have a husband, but my mother was still there for
Where
everything.
were you living?
I was living in Connecticut at the time. And we, you know, my mother went to the hospital because she was bruising and she was bleeding from her gums. And she went to the hospital, and it was the emergency room, and they admitted her right away. And when they admitted her, she was there for 1 week. And in 1 week, she was dead. 1 week.
Goodness gracious.
And still, I was like, leukemia? What is leukemia? What is happening? I had no
It's a whirlwind.
idea what happened in that how she contracted leukemia. And
you didn't have time to become a hematology
no,
oncologist.
no, I didn't. But it's something that wasn't in our family. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that I've heard of before in my space. And it was just a complete shock. And then right around that same time, everything started happening. I had an aunt who contracted Parkinson's. I had another aunt who has MS. Another aunt who had
and none of these
rheumatoid.
are contracted. Let's clarify this, okay? So Parkinson's isn't contracted, okay? Neither is MS or anything else. These are all gut issues. When we're telling you that it's already happening to you, the browning of the earth is happening to everyone. The browning of the earth is what is causing all these problems. It's not all the distractions that everyone wants you to believe. It is the browning of the earth. When the earth is browning, then the animals are not migrating, moving on the pastures outside as they should be. And then everybody's villainizing livestock. That isn't the solution, folks. It's not. It's not that livestock is terrible. It is the fact of management. No one's addressing management issues. Okay? Livestock isn't being managed properly, and neither, for that matter, is any of agriculture. Like, all of it has been industrialized. You can't industrialize life. And then they've just tried to industrialize your child. That's what's happening at this point. When you're dealing with your child and this is happening, they've centralized this program and they're trying to industrialize your child's life. And I'm sorry, but that's never going to work. And it didn't work for your mother, obviously. And who do we know that it's ever worked for? And it's only ever worked for anybody that I'm aware of, temporarily, momentarily, while you're broken open, out of desperation when you show up at the hospital. Outside of that is because it's not holistic management.
Right.
I know that at that time, and this is why I termed it my oblivious stage, is none of that had come into my radar before. Before that moment, none of that had come into my radar where people were getting things like Parkinson's and people were getting things like, leukemia. People were dying.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Does that mean that you've lived long enough to know that wasn't something that was normal?
Yes.
Does that also mean now that all of this nonsense about, you have cancer in your family and so you're therefore everybody gonna have cancer? I mean, I think that we've just identified when cancer entered your family's life in the beginning, and MS,
yes,
and Parkinson's,
yes,
because no one in your family has had it before.
Right.
I think that's interesting because it's all happening post-World War II. Okay? And we'll talk more about that, in every single episode. But I want to bring that to light. Because the first thing that happens when you go to any of the centralized medical realm is that they want to know your history, which is, by the way, completely and totally irrelevant when it comes to what you're doing. What is your personal history? Mm-hmm. That's important. What have you been doing? What are you eating? What are you putting on your body, in your body? Where are you living? What is your environment? Okay? All of that matters. What happened to your mom or her mom or their mom or whoever? Irrelevant. I don't live in the same country. I'm an immigrant. I know, watch out. But we migrated here. I'm actually not the immigrant. I'm born and raised here. I'm first generation born and raised here. So, but still, I'm first generation born and raised here. So I actually have less to do with the environmental impact of whatever my ancestors had. And I'm a purebred. Like, I know my bloodline for generations. Yeah, I know. I'm an elitist purebred, right? But I just mean that we can trace my family back. And I've married somebody within that line, which is not on purpose. It was complete, fate or whatever you want to call it. But, talk about purebreds, all right? And so if you, like, most people in America are not.
And it's confirmation of what you're saying. You're saying history doesn't matter,
right? Because of environmental circumstances, okay? Because if you really want to look at the science, which no one is actually doing, I mean, I challenge you to tell me that livestock isn't what the solution is for the soil. Livestock isn't the solution for greening the earth back. I challenge everyone. I want you to prove me wrong. Alan Savory's been challenging people forever. For over 50 years, he's been challenging people, and no one is coming out of the woodwork. Where are you? Where are all these scientists with the proof?
Yes.
All these people with the scientific proof. You have no belief system, and you have no scientific proof. So, you know, until you come and bring me your proof that what I'm saying is incorrect, okay? Which it doesn't exist, all right? I know that. I confidently, firmly can say that without livestock, you will not have the greening of the earth, which means you'll have the browning of the earth, which means that you can't have the nutrient-dense food that your daughter is seeking.
Yes.
So that she can be satiated, which all of our babies have been born starving, okay? Because we've all been being starved.
Yes.
You know? And we know it because we know what it felt like not to be starving.
Right.
Yes.
And in our lifetimes, we've observed, we've witnessed all of this happening. We've witnessed it with our elders.
Yes.
We've witnessed it, like, you know, I mean, you lost your mom in 5 minutes. Like, what in the world?
Yes. That's if you would think that would be an eye opener in itself, because I mean,
let's just let you not have any sleep, and then let's just let your mom pass away, and you'll snap out of it.
I wish I did, let me tell you, because still I searched and was, I mean, people talk about a convenient life. That life I was living then was so not convenient. I had everything at my fingertips. I had the formula right there at my fingertips.
You had everything
I had
and
her
nothing.
food right there
Right.
at my fingertips. I had my food right there at my fingertips. And yet my world was falling apart.
Right.
It did fall apart. I even, you know, through that time period, my marriage even crumbled. I got divorced. It just couldn't sustain all that. I couldn't sustain all that. And it just, everything fell apart.
And we see this happening. This dividing and conquering. This is what's happening with families everywhere is, you know, someone falls sick, whether it's your children, whether it's an elderly parent that you're caring for or something, and it's unsustainable, the stress and the pressure of these modern day diseases that are caused by the browning of the earth, okay? That's what's happening, is the browning of the earth is causing these diseases. It's not your history. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Right.
And they don't want you ever to know it's not your fault, because it's always your fault, because you don't know how to stop eating potato chips, or you don't know how to stop doing whatever or something. You're not eating the right
I felt
thing.
like it was my fault. I felt like I gave birth to this child and I couldn't do what she needed for her to have a good night's sleep. Yes, I felt it was my fault.
So you didn't do the prenatal care or something, right? Or what? I mean,
I don't know. I did everything the doctors said to do.
everything the doctor said.
I did.
And if you do everything the doctor says, then of course everything's going to work out exactly
Yes.
as it should.
Yes, that was my belief. I thought as long as I took the prenatal vitamins, as long as I followed a diet that would not be harmful to my child, according to the doctor, that everything would be okay.
It's very interesting because you brought up soy before, and 2 light bulbs went off. The light bulb that went off for me is the meddling in the food light bulb. That's the light bulb where someone has been manipulating God-given seed, and what they have even shown in the laboratory is intestines of lab rats that are fed modified foods separate. And so the interesting thing was when you said soy, as soon as she was born, when you said soy, and the fact that there's this penetration of foods that should not be going through the intestines that cause you to have allergies and asthma and issues that your body starts to reject, she's allergic to soy. When you said that, it was like, wow, you know, or day 2 or day 1 for her to get soy.
And
or
then to be
antibiotics.
allergic.
Yes,
Or the
not only
antibiotics.
that. Yes.
You know what? Let me tell y'all something. Fevers are your friend. Okay? Fevers are your friend. Stop trying to stop a fever.
Right.
Your body is fighting for its life. She was born healthy. She said she was big and healthy. She was born fighting for her life. That fever was a blessing.
Yeah.
The fever was her body fighting for its life, and it was fine. It's okay. This fear of fevers is insane. It's just insanity. Your body is repairing itself, and so it's creating this heat. It's,
And that was in the onset of birth.
right.
Her body knew how to fight itself, even though I didn't know it at the time, how to fight itself
For its
back to
life.
health,
Yeah.
back in a healthy manner for that, so that she had everything at birth what she needed to
She had
get well.
everything. She was doing all the right things, and they stopped it. They stopped it. The interference, like you said about the food, they interfered with the fever immediately.
And
she
I've
would have
been
been
trying
fine.
to get her corrected
Balanced.
ever
Yeah.
since. And
Thank God nature has grace.
yes, I agree.
Thank
Absolutely.
God nature has grace.
Yes.
Because you can remediate even from that. But I mean, like, what is more toxic than arriving into this world only to be filled with pharmaceutical, like GMO pharmaceutical drugs? Those drugs are GMOs, they're man made. And human beings do not have this figured out. The arrogance of man at this moment is what I'm so upset about. I'm so upset. The browning of the earth is happening because of the arrogance of man. And then they want to put these shiny, bright light distractions everywhere to take away from the fact that they did it.
Yes.
They chose
Yes.
to, ruin the predator-prey, creatures. They decided to, human beings are powerful. We are the most powerful. We're at the top of the food chain. So just, why don't we just get rid of any species that is going to be a predator? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's easy. It's convenient, too.
Yes.
It's really convenient. Interesting how all these conveniences, you had all the conveniences.
I did.
And with all the conveniences, what happened?
Well, I have been struggling to. My whole world fell apart. I've been struggling ever since.
Your
I
family
have-
model, your entire
Yes.
family unit fell apart.
I
because the
became a
stress is so
single
much.
mother. I moved. I couldn't stay there anymore. That environment, I felt unhealthy. I felt mentally unhealthy and physically unhealthy. So I moved. I just went
brave.
and moved to Houston, Texas.
How brave of you.
Yes, and it was really. I didn't think of it as bravery. I just thought of it as survival. And
Surviving is brave. You
I
have to
went-
be brave to survive.
Yes. I went there and I started over. I just completely started over. And, I did feel my daughter was getting older. She was around 3. And, I felt a strengthening process happening. So at that point, I was researching more. I still took her to every doctor. I took her to dermatologists.
We're not
I
anti-medical
took her
realm.
to children's hospitals, allergy doctors, pediatricians. I needed to know, and I was seeking an answer as to why my daughter would keep going through a cycle of scratching, bleeding, antibiotics. Because every time she was scratched, she would bleed, she would get a skin infection. They would put her on antibiotics. And I was asking the doctors, there's got to be something else other than antibiotics. Why is it that every time she comes here, she has to get put on antibiotics? Something doesn't seem right about that. There has to be another solution. There has to be some reasoning as to why you're doing this, why it's happening to her. I just never got answers. I would go online, and Google wasn't as prevalent back then as
We
it
did
is
not
now.
have Google. All these things that everybody's
What did we
like,
do without
everybody's
I mean-
saying like, just Google it. We couldn't Google it.
Even if, there was other things, right? But it just wasn't the thing to do like it is now.
There was no World Wide Web when we were trying to figure all
Library.
these things out. I mean, You don't, when you're not sleeping and you're not eating and you're not, able to do all these things, and you're running, for your life trying to seek solutions, then, the problem was we didn't have this, this tool. I mean, we're trying to provide everyone right now with this show. We're trying to provide everyone with a vehicle to be able to have an opportunity to learn something we never had the opportunity to have the access to at that time.
Right.
And, people in the communities, like, everyday people at that time, we didn't realize the assault.
Right.
We didn't realize what was happening, the violation that was happening on the magnitude, on the level. Nowadays, of course, it's very easy to just look left and look right and everybody's sick. Like, I don't think I haven't met a healthy person yet. Everyone is trying to recover from something. And, I mean, I don't know a healthy person. Yeah. Even we're not 100% healthy. We all know that we're working on things, all the time. Mm-hmm. But why? Why? It's the browning of the earth. Don't ever forget that it's the browning of the earth. Because the browning of the earth that they're pushing with this industrialized life, okay, which is just pushing that further. Every time you spend money at a grocery store, then you're supporting the browning of the earth. It's not environmentally friendly. I don't care if you take cloth bags or plastic bags or paper bags. It's irrelevant. It means nothing. That's a distraction. It's a shiny, bright light. Nobody cares. That doesn't mean anything. The water bottle doesn't matter. Isn't what the big deal is. The big deal is not even the cutting of the trees. It is that there is no animals moving. There are no animals moving. You can't grow a forest without migration. You can't grow anything without movement. The soil has to be massaged and it has to be desiccated on. And there's no human being going to come up with some kind of, replica of that. Look it up. Look it up. There have been people who have tried to do it. They've actually tried to create agricultural models where they're supposedly massaging and having animals desiccate or whatever, and using like actual, feces as fertilizer. I mean, you cannot do that. It's not the same thing. Wow. It's not
it's
natural.
Far from nature. Anything that any way we depart from nature, we're meddling,
disrupting the ecosystem. The ecosystem has been disrupted, and to the point where when I say prey predator, people don't even know what I'm talking about. No one realizes that we're at the top of the food chain because they don't know the food chain. I've even had people say, where did you come up with this food chain?
Wow.
Didn't you learn it in school? I thought everybody learned that. Didn't you see it? It's a circle of life. Yes. Death and life. I mean, it's a process. And why is everyone acting confused when I say that? To the point where there are physicians, unusual. Medical doctors so irresponsible to say to me that food is not medicine. Really? It's poison. Why do we have an FDA? Why is it the Food and Drug Administrator? Why do we have an FDA? Because food is medicine. That's why you have a Food and Drug Administration. Why did they try to put it all together? Because they're making money off of it.
And I did realize through my daughter had become a walking litmus test to me. She made me realize that, here's a little girl who really didn't have exposure to much. And she couldn't even have exposure to much. So she was allergic to soy. She was allergic to peanuts. She was allergic to shellfish. She was allergic to eggs and milk. And I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, why is she allergic to all of this? What is happening? What is in those foods that's making this little girl, who really has no reason to be allergic to these foods, because I'm not.
Oh, it's not in your history.
No. Why is she allergic to these foods? I was like, okay, well, that's weird. That's what I said. When my mother passed away, it was devastating. I was like, well, that's weird. When my aunt passed away of Parkinson's, that's weird.
All of these absurdities. All of the absurdities.
It's pointing
It's
somewhere.
absurd to believe that food is a medicine. It's absurd to put something in your mouth and not care where it came from. Listen, I think it's amazing, right? Like, we can all take our kids on a camping trip, and if we have a guide or someone who's there, they're going to say, hey, you guys, don't eat those berries right there because those are poisonous, okay? But these berries over here are the ones that are okay to eat, and everyone thinks that's fine. Everyone accepts this, and everyone thinks, okay, we're only going to eat the not poisonous berries.
And I will walk over there to go get it.
And it's not convenient because those are the ones that are hanging over the water because they are, seeking life-giving force. Okay? So they're in the hardest to get place. But, the poisonous ones are everywhere. They're everywhere. So what's the difference between that and what's happening with our current landscape of food? If you want real food, then you have to do what people are saying is inconvenient and inconvenience yourself to go get it versus having it literally on every corner. Like, someone will actually come to your house and just give you the food. Did you know? You can have stuff, they drop it on your porch.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Mm-hmm. So you don't actually have to go anywhere. Like, if you really just wanted Amazon to bring it to you and put it on your front door, a drone could probably drop it off there. Yeah, I know. It's like, no, honestly, if it's that convenient, shouldn't you be looking for this berry bush? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't you be trying to find the berry bush? How did that berry bush become so convenient all of a sudden? And the only reason that it's so convenient is somebody had to be making enough money to make it worth their trouble to come to your house. Who wants to come to your house and give you something? Who is that? Yep. And they're gonna do it for 50 cents a pound? I don't know. Don't you wonder, like, if you're eating something how much money does it cost for you to get up and go to work? What's the minimum wage right now?
Not enough. Not enough.
It's like
is
7.
It still 7?
Is it more than 7?
I think it's more than 7.
No, but I know it's different everywhere.
Okay, look. So
yeah.
Okay, all right.
And the point is that convenience for me even changed at that point.
Yes.
because
you're so
convenient.
convenient.
Yeah, I realized she's allergic to everything. So now I can't go anywhere with her. I can't go out to eat with her. I can't go to the grocery store and buy anything because soy wasn't everything. I can't
for your convenience.
Peanuts, yes,
for your
peanuts
convenience.
was practically in everything.
Yeah.
And so
wheat is in everything.
And wheat was one that they couldn't test on her.
Oh, interestingly, conveniently not able to test.
I did understand that every time she would eat wheat, she'd break out in hives. So I did take wheat away from her as well. And that's what the doctors would tell me. The doctors would tell me the only way you can know if she's allergic to wheat is to stop it and see what happens.
Wow.
And that's what I did.
Yeah, so what
and
happened?
she would get better. She would get better and she would get stronger.
It's the staff of life, though. Wheat. I'm just telling you what everybody says to me. You can't live without it because you're going to die.
It's a staple that's killing us.
I believe they say that.
You say wheat and people are ready to murder you.
Yeah,
okay?
it's almost a spiritual experience.
Oh, it's
you have
immediately.
to be gentle when you talk about bread.
No, you cannot even say anything anti-bread because the moment that you say that, everybody is out for blood. Right. The minute you say that, don't eat wheat.
Because people can think about
it's a pleasure-giving experience.
Yeah.
Just like any other drug.
Is that a drug?
Yes, it's a pleasure-giving experience.
Everybody's on crack. That's what it is. Wheat is crack. That's what I call it.
But we remember, a lot of us are governed by what we did in our childhood, or even our parents can think about the time we ate bread, the time we drank
joy.
This or that. Mm-hmm. But there was a time when it wasn't as bad as it is now.
Oh, you mean when it wasn't adulterated?
When it wasn't adulterated. But now it is. And so you come up against this passion. I raised 5 kids and we had wheat. What's wrong with wheat? What's wrong with Domino sugar? What's wrong with all of these things that now are modified? They're different. They will hurt you. They will cause allergies. They will cause sickness, disease.
And I knew that firsthand. Mm-hmm. I had an actual mirror of that every time I looked at my daughter. Yeah. And I even tried to do something about it. I would say, okay, I can't go anywhere with you. I can't really buy the foods anymore. So what do? I will just do whole foods, meaning if it's one ingredient that I can read, because Lord knows it's exhausting reading the labels every day with words I can't pronounce, words I didn't know what they were. They would change the labels every time I turned around. When I did think I had the right ingredients, I gave up. I said, all I'm doing is one ingredient because I can read that. It's simple, and that's what I'm going to do. I would cook things myself at home, one ingredient, or each ingredient I put in the dish would be one ingredient.
Well, you knew the ingredients.
Yes.
You know what? I think it's funny that that all of us have been in a position where we went to the store and we bought something, whatever it was, and we ate it, and they have us, the other shiny bright light is the calories of, protein, carb, whatever label.
Right.
Why they want everybody to look at that? They don't want you to read where the ingredients are. So everybody's so busy looking at this number chart of this chemistry project that I don't run a lab. I don't know what in the world any of that means, really. I mean, what does that actually mean to me when I take a bite versus the ingredients, okay? And I think I'm a pretty smart person, okay? Like if I really want to sit there and put my mind towards figuring this out, fine. But I'm not interested in this. I just want to feed my hungry kid who's scratching herself to death or whatever. But why is no one reading the ingredients, which we didn't do either? And when you do, why are you not, which I wasn't either, but why aren't you going, what is all this crap? Like, I actually know how to cook. Like, there's so many people who I talk to who have no idea how to make anything. Okay, like they don't, I've met mothers who have been crying in front of me because they really just don't even know how to patty a burger. And I can't understand that. But fine. I actually know how to cook. Why was I a dummy? Why was I buying something that had like 25 ingredients for bread when I know bread only takes 4 things to make, okay? So I know that, but I don't want to make it because it's too inconvenient. Like, who's got time to be baking some bread?
I was put in the position of making my own bread.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, if you know how to do it and then you go there, then why are we not trying to go after this somebody, whoever this somebody is, that's selling things to us that's full of literally poison? Because what is all that chemical? I mean, all those names that you don't know how to pronounce, that's chemicals. So if they're putting chemicals in the food, why are none of us getting mad at whoever it is? Okay, so I guess I could go after these companies, but why? Why do I care? I don't want anybody telling me how to run my business. I'm not going to tell someone else how to run a business. So guess what, people? Just don't participate. If you stop buying somebody's product that they're putting out there, what are they going to do? I mean, obviously they're going to go, why are we losing 1%? Oh, we lost 2%. Oh, we lost 3%. We're losing people. Why?
I was put in the position where I was forced to stop buying them. And obviously I wasn't the only one, because from the time my daughter had all those food allergies, my daughter is now 14 years old. From the time she was 6 months to 14 years old, do you know the growth of people that have food allergies now? Mm-hmm. Do you know how the food industry had to adjust themselves because of all the food allergies people have now?
So let's fast forward to where you're at now, because I know we're going to run out of time, and I don't want to run out of time, because you had a next level.
Yes, so like you said, I got angry, and anger, I've learned, is a wonderful, wonderful reaction to making change. So now what I did was I realized, even through buying the foods and making it at home and baking my own bread, she wasn't getting better. So I couldn't handle it anymore. So what do I do when I can't handle things anymore? I move.
Yeah.
So
I love this reaction. She's just like, let's just move.
I moved.
This isn't a good place either. Let's get out of here.
And yes, I did feel in my gut that Houston, Texas was not a healthy place. So I felt it in my, I'm sorry, I felt it in the air.
You saw the signs.
My daughter is a walking litmus test. She is a walking test of environment and food and everything, and she couldn't handle it there. So I researched and I found North Carolina, and I ended up in Raleigh, North Carolina. And in there, it was just another whirlwind. I think I move every time I'm in the point of another whirlwind because I, you know, I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, and my daughter did get better, thank God. I, on the other hand, did not. I then started to my health started to degrade, and I didn't know what was going on with me. I couldn't figure it out. I had a variety of symptoms. I was getting numbness that was coming from my arm and spreading, and I was having problems with my cycle, and I was just not doing well at all. And I know from dealing with my daughter that doctors were not going to be my friend in a diagnosis where I'm getting numbness. And it scared me. It really, really scared me because I didn't want them to tell me something I didn't want to hear. And so I avoided them. And I was also having the cycle problems. And I did go to a doctor for that because I felt it was safe. I felt, what's the worst they can do to me, right?
It's not
It's
neurological.
just a cycle thing. And I went to the doctor, and I was told I was premenopausal. Premenopausal, me. That really blew my mind. That was really devastating for me because I felt I was way too young to be premenopausal. That was not a thing I handled very well. Because I was like, why would I be premenopausal at this age? I talked to other women, and it turns out everybody my age is premenopausal.
How old were you at that
I
time?
was I hit 40, 41, 42, right around that area.
Interesting.
To me, that was too young. I'm sorry. I don't know about
Yeah,
anyone else.
it is.
I'm not
It
a
is too young.
doctor.
Yeah.
No, but to me, that was too young. To me, that happened when you were in your 50s,
At
60s,
least when you're 50.
maybe. I
Yeah.
can accept it.
Mhm.
40s,
Mm.
no.
Mm-mm.
No. That was not reasonable to me, and I wasn't going to have it. Not me. So,
I mean, when it ain't normal.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I went and, I'm a spiritual person. I prayed about it, and I Googled. And
'Cause now you can Google.
Now I can Google. And I was like, I'm Googling a hormone problem. Let me just start there because I can recognize that. The numbness, that'll just go away, right? I'm just going to leave that alone and go with the hormone problem. And when I researched it, I came across a workshop. And I went to the workshop, and I came across a chiropractor. The chiropractor was my savior. Dr. Barnes was the one who explained to me how your spine is the gateway to everything, and explained to me how the spine and the nervous system are the gateway to everything. And that made sense. For the first time, I can speak to someone who made sense. It blew my mind. At that point, I said, yes, you make sense to me. You're my friend. I am going to follow you. And I did. I at that workshop, I not only met the chiropractor, I met a whole community that made sense to me. That's where Neethi was actually doing some catering for the event, and she made sense to me. She was the one who spoke to me about food. You can speak to me about food and it can make sense because my daughter had already put into my mind and my awareness how food can damage you. I know we need food. No matter what, I know we need food. So if food can damage you, food can also heal you. Mm-hmm. And Neethi was the one who showed me how. And that's when I came here and how I arrived here. So I went to the chiropractor, and in one adjustment, my numbness went away. In one adjustment,
Wow.
my numbness went away. And then I was still, no, I'm going to go to the doctor because now that I'm feeling good, I'm not numb, I'm good. I'm going to go.
The scarier part was
yes,
over.
I'm not scared anymore about dying of numbness because Lord knows what that was. And it turns out it was a misalignment of the spine. But at the time, I was like, Lord, I don't know what this is. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm just going to...
No electronical.
I'm just going to
short
listen to
circuits.
what makes sense. And, you know, and go from there. But then I went to the doctors for my cycle issue, which was just getting worse and worse and worse. So at that point, they put me on birth control pills. Because why not?
They don't know what else to do, but
do that because hormones means birth control pills. That's all it means to every woman. It seems when you have a hormone problem, you get put on birth control pills,
which are genetically modified, man-made. And you know what's interesting, everybody, is that food is a hormone delivery system, and exercise is a hormone management system. So your food is definitely going to affect your hormonal system. And so you don't need a pill. You need real food. You need real food. So we did have a conversation about that finally.
The pill actually made me worse. It made my cycle worse. Everything got worse.
Because it's going to have side effects also.
And I stopped taking it. I went back to the doctor. I said, something's still wrong, and now it's worse. Something's still wrong, and now it's worse. So she says, okay, well, we have to then think about different options, and your options are either you get the abrasions, scraping, burning of your
Well, you said
lining.
that your fibroids had come back.
Yes. They
that
did.
was what happened.
Yes. They did ultrasounds. They did all kinds of tests. The blood tests, the ultrasounds. They found fibroids. She said that could be it.
After the operation and whatever, which isn't a solution.
Yes, we can
It's
do an
Band-Aid.
operation, and we can also do a biopsy at the same time, because a biopsy is what will tell us if it's cancerous, because these symptoms you're having are the symptoms of what cancer patients have as well.
Which everybody has cancer. And by the way, the reason that your cancer markers go up is because when you're in hormonal dysfunction, then it is the beginning of going towards more cells going bad. So the only way to turn cells around is to nourish them. You can't reverse cancer without nourishment, period.
All I know is I wasn't going to handle being premenopausal. I definitely am not going to handle being cancerous.
Right. So let's move on.
So that didn't work for me either. I was devastated. I was at my chiropractor crying. I was at Neathy's doorstep crying, and I told them both what I was told. I was cancerous. I was with fibroids, and you know, they helped me. They helped me. I got, you know, put on a food protocol as my medicine, and I got and really it was that simple. Really, it was that simple.
And you like it simple.
Yes. It really it turned my whole world around. So not only that, I was told to be positive. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
Be positive. Don't think about the fact that they're telling you you're dying because you're cancerous.
No,
Don't
because your
think
mind
about that.
your mind is so powerful.
Yes.
You have to have a strong mind.
The two prescriptions I got were food and positivity.
And you said something before that resonated with me, and I've actually thought about it over a period of time. Live like what? She told you to live a certain way in order to change. Live like you already had.
Oh, like live as if you already have cancer. So, fine. Just say you have cancer and live to fight against it. And that's what
you
I
should
did.
every day just pretend like you
And
have cancer
what
if that's what
that
you have to
did-
do to motivate yourself.
What that did was take away the fear. I no longer feared it. Fine, I have it. I'm
You know
not
how-
dead
you know how to
yet.
strangle
I'm
it.
not dead
You
yet.
know how to-
I wasn't scared of it anymore.
Right.
You can't be a cancer killer if you can't go ahead and realize what a cancer is. Okay, the thing that the centralized system wants to do is to fearmonger you into giving them all of your money. And with that, you give them your life and your dreams
mental
and
life.
you're giving them all your dreams and all of your future, and everybody is feeding into that, and it is the biggest lie. It is the biggest lie.
And I can say that it is a lie for a fact, because I went back to the doctor because, I'm a glutton for punishment. And I went back and they did another ultrasound. They told me the first one was inconclusive. Let's do another ultrasound. And by then I had been on my protocol for a couple of weeks. And the fibroids were gone.
So we don't guess. We do want to test. There's nobody saying you should be guessing. No one's trying to play a game with your life. That's irresponsible. That is what the centralized system's doing, is incredibly irresponsible. Versus, I don't know. To me, the centralized system is absurd. It's absurd. And
I think they're
regenerative lifestyle is easy, and it is respecting the nature that we are embedded in. And I know we got to wrap it up, so let's wrap it up. I want you to tell us.
I want to say real quick too, is not only did my fibroids go away in a couple weeks, but my cycle regulated itself. By a couple of weeks, my symptoms were gone. By 3 months, my cycle was regulated. So I'm not here trying to tell you guys something because I didn't live it. I'm not here trying to tell you guys something because it's fun. I'm here because...
Spill your guts out.
I got angry. That was the second I got angry. So now, instead of living angry, I live intentional. Now, I want to tell you what I went through, tell you what I am doing, so that your life can be easier. So you can skip the whole oblivious, sick, angry stages and just go to intentional.
Right. If you're living with intention every day, then how is it possible that you won't be successful? If you create intention every day, then you can't do anything but be successful, because you know what you're trying to do, right? You know where you're going. You know that you need to go for the green light right here. Intention. So go for the green light, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Go for the green light, people.
Bye.
Hey friends, we hope that this production has served you in some way today. If you would like to hear more shows like this, please help us grow our army of Minas by visiting our website and making a donation today. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, and I ask that you please like and share this video, follow us on Facebook, become involved with us on Instagram and Twitter, and all of our links can be found in the show notes. Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.